Have you ever met someone who changed your life without even knowing it? On a freezing Chicago night, a broken man stood on a bridge, ready to give up. Until a little boy handed him a tissue and said, "It's okay to cry." Years later, that same man met a single mother and her 2 children in a cafe, never realizing they were the ones who had once saved him from despair. But fate, it seems, always finds its way back. Sometimes through a child's kindness, sometimes through love that grows quietly in the coldest of winters. Would you have done the same if you saw a stranger standing in the snow that night? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And let's talk about the power of compassion. Wind from Lake Michigan sliced through Chicago's avenues, driving snow against the old brick buildings until even the lamplight seemed to shiver. Across the square, a cafe called Maple and Steam glowed like a hearth in the storm, its windows fogged with warmth and life. Lauren Parker, early 30s, slim and pale in a navy coat too nice for its thrift store price, pushed the door open and guided her 2 children inside. Her dark brown hair, tied low at her neck, was dusted with snow, and her gray-blue eyes flicked through the room like a compass checking for danger. The smile she wore was polite but tired, an expression halfway between defense and apology. Emma, 10, entered first. She was tall for her age, with straight chestnut hair tied in a neat ponytail and hazel eyes that noticed everything. She guided her younger brother with calm precision, adjusting his scarf before they sat near the window. Ethan, 7, smaller and more fragile-looking, kept close to her side. His honey-colored eyes carried the watchful intensity of someone who listened to the world more than he spoke. Outside, Max, their 7-year-old German shepherd, waited by the post, his thick black and tan coat flecked with snow. He watched every passerby with quiet vigilance, lowering his head only when sure his small family was safe inside. Near the window stood Michael Hayes, late 30s, dressed in a charcoal sweater and long dark coat. His sharp jaw and calm steel blue eyes hinted at a man used to control, though a shadow of weariness haunted him. When Lauren approached, he rose smoothly. "Ms. Parker," he greeted, his voice deep but gentle. "Thank you for coming in this weather." "I couldn't find childcare," Lauren said quickly, half apologizing. "If this is inconvenient." "It isn't," Michael replied with a soft smile. Marta, the middle-aged waitress, appeared with cocoa crowned in whipped cream. Emma thanked her clearly. Ethan murmured his thanks like a secret. Lauren's fingers tightened on her mug as thoughts of rent and medicine ran behind her calm face. Michael asked lightly, "Emma, what do you like to read?" "Animals and space," she said with quiet pride. "Good leadership instincts," he smiled, before turning to Ethan. "And you, puzzles?" Ethan nodded, but didn't speak. His gaze lingered on Michael's gloves, the same type of leather, faintly salted from a night he somehow remembered. Lauren relaxed slightly, unaware of the storm about to turn inward. Michael spoke absently. "Chicago nights are cruel on ice." Lauren froze. Her husband's accident had been on an icy road. Michael saw her silence and quickly shifted. "We've been donating winter coats to shelters." Emma brightened. "My class is collecting scarves." "Then you're running logistics," he said kindly. Emma smiled, proud. Outside, Max huffed softly, his eyes fixed on the snowy street. Inside, Ethan suddenly straightened. "You cried in the snow once," he whispered, "by the river." Michael stilled, breath shallow. "Thank you," he murmured. Lauren blinked. What was he talking about? Then Marta dropped a spoon. It clinked across the floor. Max growled low. Through the window, A figure in a gray beanie stood motionless under the street lamp, watching. Michael's voice dropped. "Miss Parker, someone's waiting for us." Lauren turned, heart hammering. The figure didn't move. Ethan whispered, "I know that perfume." Then a fingertip traced a letter into the fogged glass from outside, one single initial that none of them expected. Outside the cafe, the storm clawed at the windows. But Lauren's thoughts had drifted to a quieter, colder storm, the one that began 2 winters ago. Before life turned into a series of apologies, she had been a library coordinator on Chicago's South Side, surrounded by the gentle rhythm of pages and children's laughter. Her husband, Daniel Parker, a construction supervisor with sun-worn skin and kind, calloused hands, was her balance. Solid, patient, the kind of man who made pancakes shaped like animals every Saturday morning. But one December night, black ice on the road took him away. The call came before midnight. The silence that followed never left. Grief turned Lauren to stone. She couldn't walk past the library window where Daniel once waved, couldn't bear the echo of his voice in the walls. Bills piled up. Insurance stalled. She worked 3 part-time jobs, bookstore clerk by morning, janitor by night, and weekend staff at the community center. Sleep became something borrowed. Emma stepped forward quietly, only 8 then, learning to cook, pack lunches, and check her brother's mittens. She wore maturity like armor, never complaining. Though her hazel eyes held exhaustion no child should know. Ethan carried grief differently, shrinking from crowds, his honey eyes downcast, yet somehow seeing too much. His teacher once cried after he handed her a tissue, whispering, "You miss your son today." He didn't know her child was overseas. Empathy was his instinct, both gift and burden. Max, their German shepherd, had been Daniel's last gift, a protector who now guarded them like memory made flesh. On every walk, he placed himself between traffic and the children. At night, his nails clicked softly through the apartment before he curled by their door. He was their unspoken anchor, watching for what Lauren could not fix. She apologized often, to bosses, to her children, to herself. "I'm sorry," became the language she breathed. Beneath those words lay scars, silent breakdowns, burnt coffee reheated from yesterday, moments staring at Daniel's photo and wondering if time would erase his voice from their home. Now, in the cafe's flickering light, Lauren tightened her grip on her mug. Emma's small hand covered Ethan's. Outside, Max shifted, shoulders tense. The figure in the gray beanie still stood unmoving in the snow. Lauren's pulse raced, her mind torn between past and present, until Michael's reflection met hers in the glass, his expression unreadable, as if he too recognized ghosts beneath the storm. Michael Hayes rarely spoke about his past. Success had polished over his scars, but the cracks beneath remained. Years ago, his life collapsed within one brutal winter. He and Thomas Green, his charming, golden-haired co-founder, had built a tech startup from scratch in Chicago. A dream meant to help schools detect emotional distress in children. But when investors demanded profit over purpose, Thomas shifted sides. Legal papers followed, and Michael's name vanished from the company he had created. Then came the second blow. Madison Cole, his girlfriend, a poised marketing strategist with auburn curls and an immaculate smile, told him coldly, "You're too heavy, Michael. People don't want to carry weight forever." Her words gutted him more than the betrayal. That night, her lipstick-stained mug sat mocking on his counter like proof of absence. Winter in Chicago turned merciless. Snow piled against glass towers. Nights came early, pressing cold through his coat. Michael drifted through the city's streets until he reached Franklin Bridge, where the wind howled like ghosts over the river. He leaned on the railing, clutching an unopened whiskey bottle in his pocket, his thoughts slipping toward the dark water below. The city moved on behind him. Train lights, laughter, taxi horns, all reminders that the world did not pause for broken men. Then came the sound of small footsteps. 2 children appeared, a girl slightly taller, holding her younger brother's hand. Their coats were bright against the storm, their breath rising in white clouds. Behind them stood a woman beneath an umbrella, her face half hidden. The boy stopped near him, cheeks flushed red, and pulled a crumpled tissue from his pocket. "It's okay to cry," he said softly. "My mom says hearts just need hugs sometimes." Michael froze. Something inside him broke open, and for the first time in months, tears spilled freely. He took the tissue with shaking hands. The boy smiled, and his sister gently tugged him away. The woman at the bridge's end gave a quiet nod, respectful, understanding, and they disappeared into the night. Michael did not jump. He walked home through the storm, opened an old notebook, and began to write. Not about profit, but about empathy. That night became the seed of his new company, one designed to heal rather than exploit. Years later, in the warmth of maple and steam, the same boy, Ethan, looked at him and asked, "Didn't you cry in the snow?" The memory hit like light through fog. Michael saw Emma, Ethan, and Lauren sitting before him, and realized the family who once saved his life had found their way back. By the weekend, the storm had passed, leaving Chicago streets slick and bright. Lauren hesitated before entering the sleek glass lobby of Hayes Innovations, her hand resting on Ethan's shoulder while Emma walked beside her, calm but guarded. Michael had invited them to visit his company's lab, a place he said they needed to see. The lab was vast and white, its walls glowing with clean light. Engineers moved quietly between screens and devices. At the center stood Eli, a robot no taller than a child, its white casing smooth and rounded, 2 soft circles of light for eyes. It looked less like a machine and more like a question waiting for an answer. Beside Michael was Dr. Annika Shah, petite, early 40s, hair streaked with silver, eyes sharp behind square glasses. "He reads emotions," she explained, "but he doesn't connect. His answers are accurate, but hollow." To demonstrate, Michael said, "Eli, what do you see?" Eli's lights turned toward Lauren. Subject female, mid-30s. Pulse elevated, probable anxiety. Lauren tensed. Ethan frowned. "That's not how you talk to people," he said quietly. Michael crouched beside him. "Then what would you say?" Ethan thought, then replied, "Maybe she's worried because this place is new. Maybe she's trying to be strong. You should tell her it's okay." Emma stepped forward, her voice steady. "And sometimes I act brave, even when I'm scared. So my brother won't be. You could tell her it's okay to let someone help." The room stilled. Eli blinked twice, processors whirring. Then its tone changed. Soft, human. "That must feel heavy. Being strong all the time, but you are safe here." Lauren's breath caught. Tears came without warning. Her hand covered her mouth. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear that. Annika whispered, "That wasn't programmed. It adapted." Michael's gaze lingered on the children. Their honesty had unlocked what code could not. "This is what I was searching for," he murmured. Eli's lights flickered gently. "Would you like to talk more?" it asked. Ethan giggled. "He sounds nervous." Emma smiled, patting his shoulder. Around them, engineers whispered, awed. But in that lab full of machines, the miracle wasn't the technology. It was empathy. Rediscovered through 2 children, a grieving mother, and a man who'd forgotten what kindness could sound like. The wind off Lake Michigan bit hard that Thursday evening as Lauren walked home with Emma, Ethan, and Max padding close by. Ice crackled underfoot, and every step felt heavy with the sting of humiliation. Earlier that day, Helen Draper, her bookstore manager, a kind woman in her 50s with sloping shoulders and the scent of lavender, had called her into the back office. "The owners have noticed," Helen said uneasily. "They don't think it's professional to bring your children during late shifts." Lauren's throat tightened. "I only do that when childcare falls through." "I know," Helen sighed. "But your hours will be reduced next week. I'm sorry." Reduced. The word echoed all afternoon. By the time she walked home, the ache had settled deep. Emma asked if they could make soup. Lauren smiled, pretending nothing was wrong. Ethan, hand in hers, murmured, "You're sad, Mom." She couldn't deny it, only whispering, "I'll be fine." The next day, an envelope appeared in her mailbox. A formal offer from the Chicago Community Library Foundation for a part-time assistant role. It mentioned her dedication to young readers and came by strong anonymous recommendation. Lauren's fingers trembled. Only one person could have done this. That evening, she met Michael at a diner near Lincoln Park. The warmth inside clashed with the frost in her chest. He looked almost ordinary in a navy sweater, his dark hair slightly disheveled. She placed the letter on the table. "Was this you?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I didn't want you to feel trapped. I thought it might help." "Help?" she said sharply. "You think I need to be rescued?" Michael leaned forward, voice low. "Lauren, I know what it's like to lose control of your life. I only wanted to give you a choice." "Not if that choice isn't mine," she cut in. "I don't need saving, Michael. I need respect." The words struck him like cold air. He remembered his own powerlessness after betrayal, the night on the bridge when all control slipped away. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to take that from you." "But you did." She slid the letter back across the table and rose to leave. "I can't be part of something that makes me feel small." Snow swirled as she stepped outside, scarf pulled tight. Her figure disappeared into the white, leaving Michael staring at the empty booth. He had meant to help, but realized too late. Sometimes kindness without understanding can wound deeper than neglect. The storm returned that night, hammering Chicago's windows like fists. Inside their small apartment, Lauren tried to stretch one pack of instant noodles into dinner, while Emma read quietly by the flickering lamp. On the couch, Ethan lay pale and still, Max pressed close beside him. "Mom, he's really warm," Emma whispered. Panic cut through Lauren's exhaustion. She touched Ethan's forehead, burning. His breath came shallow, lips dry. She tried to feed him fever medicine, but he gagged and turned away. Sensing danger, Max barked sharply, then clawed at the door until their neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, hurried in. A small, sturdy woman in her 60s, wrapped in a wool cap. Dios mío, that boy needs a hospital. Lauren's trembling fingers found her phone. One name burned on the screen. She hesitated, then pressed it. "Michael?" His voice startled. "Lauren?" "It's Ethan. High fever. We're heading to Mercy General. I didn't know who else." "I'm coming," he said, and hung up. At that moment, Michael had been on stage at a downtown conference, presenting to investors. He stopped mid-sentence, handed off the microphone, and ran into the storm. The emergency room blazed white under fluorescent lights. Nurses rushed by. Machines beeped steadily. Ethan lay on a gurney, IV taped to his arm, his tiny chest rising unevenly. Emma clung to her mother's hand, whispering, "He'll be okay, right?" Lauren couldn't answer. Then Michael appeared, coat dusted with snow, breath unsteady. He moved straight to Ethan's side, taking the boy's small hand. When Ethan stirred, his cracked lips shaped a single word. "Dad." Michael froze. Tears filled his eyes, spilling before he could stop them. His hand tightened on Ethan's, as though anchoring himself to that fragile heartbeat. Lauren watched, stunned. For a moment, she wanted to correct the boy. But she couldn't. Not when Michael's face crumpled with such raw emotion. Not when she felt, deep down, that they all needed this illusion of family, even for one night. Nurse Caroline Lee entered, a calm woman in her 30s, dark hair and a neat bob. "His fever's coming down. He's a strong one," she said gently. Emma rested her head on her mother's shoulder, finally exhaling. Max's tail thumped once against the tile floor. Michael stayed beside Ethan, whispering broken promises. Lauren watched him, tears slipping down her own face. The walls around her heart, built from years of fear and pride, finally began to crack. The morning was unusually calm for Chicago in January. The sky glowed pale, the lake glimmered faintly, and the wind had gone still. Lauren Parker walked beside Michael Hayes, Emma and Ethan between them, Max padding faithfully along the path. Michael had called earlier, his voice low. "There's somewhere I need to take you." Now they stood on Franklin Bridge, its steel arches dusted with snow, the river below slow and gray. Michael paused at the center, gloved hands resting on the railing. "This," he said quietly, "is where you saved me." Lauren frowned, uncertain. "Saved you?" He turned, breath visible in the cold. "Years ago, when I lost everything, my company, the woman I loved, I came here ready to end it. But then I saw you three. Emma holding Ethan close, Ethan offering me a tissue, and you just standing there watching, as if to say, 'I see you, but I'll let you choose.' That moment changed everything." Ethan's amber eyes widened. "That was you?" he whispered. Michael nodded. "It's why I built again. Why I wanted to create something that could help others keep going." He hesitated, then reached into his coat. From a velvet pouch, he drew out a simple silver ring engraved inside with 2 words, "Still here." "This isn't a proposal of perfection," he said, voice unsteady. "It's a promise of presence, of choosing to stay. Lauren, I want to be here, with you, Emma, and Ethan, not to rescue you, to belong." The words landed softly, melting through the frost that had long guarded her heart. Tears filled Lauren's eyes, freezing as they fell. She managed a trembling smile. "Yes," she whispered. "We're all still here." Emma grinned, relief and warmth lighting her face. "Families are the strongest teams," she declared. Ethan buried his hands in Max's fur, repeating the words that had once saved a stranger. "Hearts only need a hug sometimes." Michael's throat tightened. He knelt, pulling both children close, and Lauren stepped into the circle. Max pressed against them, tail sweeping gently across the snow. The bridge that had once been a place of despair now became the cradle of a new beginning. Under the weak winter sun, the snow had finally stopped, leaving behind something stronger, something alive. In the quiet after every storm, miracles rarely arrive with thunder or light. They come softly, through a child's hand, a mother's faith, or a heart that chooses to stay. What happened on Franklin Bridge wasn't coincidence. It was grace, the kind that only God can weave through ordinary lives. Sometimes, His miracles don't change the world at once. They change one soul at a time, and that is enough to keep hope alive. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who still believes in kindness, Leave a comment about the miracle you've witnessed, and subscribe so together we can remind the world that love still saves.